Hello there, and welcome to Dreamy Science. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe the day carried a quiet weight, or maybe your thoughts are still drifting in their own small orbits. But now you've stepped into a softer kind of night. Here, beneath the hush of distant starlight, we'll wander slowly through the gentle phenomena of space weather, the silent breezes of solar wind, the luminous sighs of auroras, and the patient rhythms of magnetic fields that sweep across worlds like cosmic tides. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be held. Only breathe, rest, and drift with these calm explorations. If these quiet journeys help you unwind, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps more peaceful minds find their way here, one sleepy soul at a time. Now settle in, let your breath soften, and feel yourself floating. There is nowhere to go, only the slow unfolding of night. A soft breeze begins at the edge of our sun, drifting outward like a warm exhale in the cold. You feel it brushing gently past worlds, never in a hurry. It moves with a kind of ancient patience, carrying with it tiny charged particles that have known the glow of the solar surface and now wander freely through the open dark. As you drift alongside this breeze, you sense how delicate it truly is, how easily it glides past everything it touches without ever disturbing the stillness around it. It drifts through space the way a calm breath moves through a resting body, steady and unbroken. The farther it travels, the softer it becomes, thinning and cooling, yet always continuing its journey, unfurling through the vastness like a ribbon of warmth slowly dissolving into night. You follow its path as it stretches outward, past planets and dust and empty expanses, carrying the quiet signature of the star that released it. And as it fades into the distance, the breeze becomes less a movement and more a memory of motion, a gentle echo that continues to drift long after its presence can be felt, leaving only a sense of softness settling into the dark. Far from noise or urgency, a vast bubble surrounds the sun, shimmering with charged particles. You drift along its boundary, feeling the quiet pulse of its protection. The heliosphere stretches in every direction like a luminous cocoon, a soft shield that cradles every planet and moon within its invisible walls. As you glide deeper through its layers, you sense a slow, rhythmic motion, a subtle tide of particles flowing outward and swirling around you as though you are floating inside a gentle cosmic sea. Each movement is tender, effortless, smooth, like drifting through the calmest possible waters, suspended in a world without edges. The currents guide you forward, circling, folding, stretching, but never rushing. They hold the faint warmth of the sun's distant glow, a reminder of the origin that lies far behind you. Even as light years open around you, the heliosphere remains like a comforting presence, a soft envelope against the deeper dark beyond. And within that cradle of drifting light and plasma, you feel the serenity of a system carried together in a single breath, each world moving quietly within this shimmering sphere, held gently as you continue your slow, fluid journey through its protective calm. Invisible lines curl and bend through space with the grace of drifting silk. They hold their shape patiently, guiding particles as if guiding dreams. As you travel beside them, these magnetic ribbons seem to sway in a rhythm too soft to hear, their loops and arcs stretching across vast distances like pathways of quiet intention. They cradle charged particles and steer them gently, almost lovingly, through the emptiness. shaping the movement of space weather with gestures so subtle they feel like whispers. You follow one of these lines as it curves around the sun, then stretches outward toward distant regions where the solar wind thins and slows. The ribbon's invisible form seems to glow in your awareness, not with light, but with presence, a delicate structure woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Even where it bends sharply or splits into branching tendrils, its motion is fluid, serene, the softness of its shape unwavering. In its silent guidance, you sense an underlying harmony, a quiet choreography that has been unfolding for billions of years. These magnetic threads hold the solar system like an intricate tapestry, and as you drift along their gentle contours, you feel as though you are floating inside the patterns of a sleeping dream. Deep inside the sun, slow rotation stirs like a warm, glowing tide. Its motion sends rhythms outward, soft as a heartbeat beneath layers of light. You drift through these pulses as they travel upward, moving through layers of shifting plasma, each one twitching and swirling like liquid fire suspended in perfect calm. The deeper you imagine yourself sinking, the more you feel the quiet power of this massive turning sphere, a star whose rotations shape winds, fields, and distant auroras without ever feeling rushed. The waves born in its core rise gently, spreading outward through regions of radiant heat, carrying with them the soft imprint of the sun's internal pulse. Even as they reach the shimmering surface, their motion remains unbroken, flowing from the heart of the star into the open sky, like ripples from a pebble dropped into an endless sea. This quiet stirring shapes the cycles of space weather, the subtle variations in light, warmth, and particles that drift outward through the solar system. And as you float alongside these slow rhythms, you sense how stable, how peaceful, how enduring this turning heart truly is, an anchor of warmth at the center of all things, glowing steadily as you drift deeper into stillness. Every 11 years, the sun moves through gentle phases of rest and renewal. You float beside this rhythm, feeling its calm ebb and flow. The cycle unfolds like a slow inhale and exhale, a long, breathing pattern etched into the life of the star. Sunspots blossom, fade, and return. Magnetic fields twist softly before unwinding into new shapes. You feel each phase shift as a quiet turning of seasons, subtle, unhurried, predictable in its soothing repetition. The sun brightens just a little, then settles again, casting its changing moods across the solar system with the patience of a drifting cloud. As you drift along with this cycle, it feels like watching a tide rise and fall over the span of years, the movement so gradual it becomes a background hum, a gentle reminder that even stars live in slow rhythms. These transitions echo through space weather, altering the tone of solar winds and the glow of distant auroras, but always in a way that feels natural, almost drowsy. You float through these epochs of light as though gliding through chapters of a long, luminous story, each shift another quiet breath warming the dark. Soft, shadowed blooms appear on the sun's surface, swirling with magnetic strength. They come and go like passing thoughts in a settling mind. As you drift above them, these sunspots look like deep, dark pools in a sea of glowing gold, each one shaped by the quiet tangle of magnetic forces beneath. Their edges shimmer with contrasting brightness, a gentle halo surrounding each dark core. Though they mark regions of intense activity, from afar they feel serene, like slow eddies forming on the surface of a warm river. You watch them rotate across the solar face, moving with the sun's steady spin, never rushing, always drifting, Some emerge singly, others appear in clusters, briefly decorating the star with patterns that shift and fade like shadows on a candlelit wall. And as they dissolve back into the surrounding glow, they leave no trace, only the memory of their soft, fleeting presence drifting across your awareness the way a half-forgotten dream drifts through a morning light. Arcs of plasma lift into space like glowing bridges of fire. They sway in stillness, suspended in magnetic embrace, even at their most immense, rising taller than worlds. They move with a slow, unbroken softness, as if held in place by an unseen hand. You float alongside one, watching its glowing form stretch upward from the solar surface and loop gracefully back down, a ribbon of light hovering in perfect balance. Within the arc, charged particles flow like molten silk, gliding along magnetic lines that curve and cradle them. These prominences can linger for days, weeks, sometimes months, drifting in the star's warm breath without ever losing their gentle shape. Beneath their glow, the sun continues to turn, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow that shimmer across the prominence like reflections on water. As you follow the arc from one foot point to the other, you feel the quiet tension that holds it suspended, a serene equilibrium between gravity and magnetic force. And in that stillness, the prominence feels almost alive, like a luminous bridge connecting the sun's surface to the calm expanse of space, swaying softly in the timeless dark. High above the sun, arcs of light twist and shimmer like floating lantern vines. Their movement is so slow it feels like breathing. These coronal loops rise from bright magnetic regions, glowing with the pale gold of superheated plasma, each curve stretching upward in elegant symmetry. You drift alongside them as they bend and arch, looping back toward the surface with a fluidity that makes them seem weightless despite the immense forces shaping them. Their glow pulses faintly, responding to these deep motions within the sun, each flicker like a soft inhale and exhale. You watch currents of plasma slide along their forms, drawn by magnetic tension that guides them like invisible threads. The loops appear quiet, almost delicate, despite containing temperatures that would outshine any flame. Yet from this peaceful vantage, they are simply luminous arcs suspended in infinite calm. Floating near them, you sense the serenity of their structure, the quiet story of energy rising, curving, and returning, all in rhythms too slow to disturb the silence around you. They stand as monuments to the balance of fire and form, drifting gently in the light that surrounds them. A faint crown of light encircles the sun, delicate and quiet. You drift along its edge, where heat sings in whispering waves. The corona reaches outward in pale ghost-like tendrils, each one stretching into space with an elegance that seems almost unreal. Here, far from the bright surface, the light softens, thinning into a shimmering veil that sways like mist illuminated from within. You float through this halo, feeling the warmth dim into something airy and gentle, a hushed radiance that seems to hum with distant energy. Though the corona burns hotter than the surface below, its brightness is diffused, allowing its forms to dissolve into the surrounding dark with effortless grace. As you move across its wide, glowing expanse, you see faint loops, plumes, and arching structures all unfolding in slow motion, each motion so subtle it feels like the sky is breathing around you. And as you linger in this quiet crown, you sense the vast calm at the heart of the sun's outermost glow, a delicate boundary where fiery energy becomes silent light, bursts of bright energy unfurl like sudden flares of emotion. Yet even their brilliance feels softened by distance, softened by night. These solar flares, though powerful, appear from afar as momentary blossoms of radiance, rising and fading in a gentle sweep of light. You drift through their echoes, sensing the warmth of their release, spreading outward in widening circles, like ripples born from a single drop. The flare expands, illuminates, then melts back into the sun's golden surface, leaving behind a softness that lingers in the air. Waves of particles flow outward from the eruption, but they move with a surprisingly calm steadiness, gliding through space like drifting embers carried on a quiet wind. As the flare subsides, the surrounding region of the sun brightens slightly, glowing with the aftertaste of released energy. You float in the gentle wash of that brightness, feeling no urgency, only the smooth continuation of a star's natural breath. The flare becomes a fading memory, a moment of light dissolving into the ever-present warmth that stretches endlessly across the solar sky. Tiny travelers leave the sun and drift across the solar system for years. You imagine them as glowing grains carried on a cosmic breeze. Each one begins its journey in a quiet burst of heat, rising from the solar surface with no destination except outward, always outward, following the flow of the solar wind. They move so lightly that even the faintest magnetic whisper can alter their course, nudging them into new paths as they wander through the wide, open dark. Some slip past planets and moons without ever slowing. Others linger near gravitational fields as though pausing to listen to the silent music of orbiting worlds. Their journey is patient, unhurried, a slow migration that can last a human lifetime or longer. As you drift beside them, you feel the immense calm that surrounds their travel, as if each particle carries a small piece of the sun's warmth into places where light grows thin. These tiny travelers become messengers of quiet energy, moving through space with the softness of drifting snowflakes. Their glow, barely perceptible, but endlessly persistent, continuing on and on until their paths dissolve gently into the vastness. Some streams move faster, some slower, weaving harmonies in emptiness. You float between them, feeling their gentle difference like subtle shifts in mood. Each stream winds its way through space like a long, wandering river, shaped by the sun's rotating breath and guided by magnetic threads that twist softly as they spread outward. The faster currents feel like faint, warm gusts brushing past your awareness, while the slower ones drift like deep, restful sighs through the void. As you move among them, you sense a quiet order beneath their variations, as if each stream knows exactly where to flow, even without direction. They curve around planets, slip through the gaps between orbits, and merge with one another in soft, seamless transitions. The streams never collide. They blend, ripple, separate, all in rhythms, too gentle to disturb the hush of space. You drift with them, letting their slow, changing tempos guide your senses into deeper calm. The harmonies of their motion surrounding you, like a lullaby carried through a universe without a sound, not loud, not harsh, simply a quiet stirring in the cosmic air. You sense its presence the way one senses rain before it falls. This subtle shift moves through the heliosphere with a softness that seems to reach you before any particle arrives, a faint impression of energy traveling through magnetic fields like a shadow. Passing over calm water, you feel it in the gentle tightening of space, in the slow buildup of unseen tension that never startles, only whispers. Space weather gathers the way clouds gather on a distant horizon, slowly, imperceptibly, as though night itself is inhaling. The fields around you ripple with these small changes, adjusting, accommodating, stretching just enough to welcome the incoming flow. Nothing about it feels threatening. It is simply the sun's quiet voice carried across millions of miles, a reminder that even in the deepest stillness, there are soft movements that keep the universe alive. And as this distant thunder continues its silent roll, you drift deeper into its calm presence, feeling the gentle hush of the cosmic air as it unfolds around you. Around our world, a soft magnetic cocoon swirls in protective motion. You watch it sway like a quiet guardian, ever patient. It wraps Earth in layers of unseen strength, flexing and bending around the flow of incoming solar wind with the grace of fabric drifting underwater. You drift along the outer edges of this cocoon, sensing how it changes shape almost imperceptibly in response to distant energies, yet always returns to a gentle equilibrium. Within its embrace, the planet turns peacefully, shielded from harsh particles that arrive from the sun and beyond. You see currents of charged energy sliding along the magnetic surface, guided downward or deflected away in paths that feel choreographed, elegant, natural. The cocoon seems to breathe with the world it protects, expanding slightly during storms, contracting again when calm returns. From here, you feel the quiet reassurance of its presence, the way it holds Earth in an invisible cradle of steady, unbroken motion. And as you drift closer, the guardian field hums softly in your awareness, a persistent, comforting pulse that reminds you how gently the planet is kept safe within the darkness. This vast, invisible field deflects the sun's wandering particles. It holds its shape like a deep breath slowly released, drifting inside its protective reach. You feel the magnetosphere stretching outward on the day side, pressed gently inward on the night side, forming a serene, teardrop-shaped shield around the turning Earth. Its strength does not roar, it whispers, folding the solar wind around itself with the quiet power of a river dividing around a smooth stone. The field lines curve and arc in long, gentle loops, carrying charged particles along paths that spiral softly toward the poles or drift in graceful orbits high above the atmosphere. From your vantage point, the magnetosphere resembles a glowing silhouette of calm intention, a barrier shaped not by force, but by balance. Even when space weather presses against it, the field flexes with fluid resilience, always returning to its steady form. You float in its stillness, sensing the subtle vibrations that ripple through it, each one a reminder of the sun's distant breath. And in its vast, invisible structure, you feel the quiet strength that has sheltered life on Earth for eons, holding the planet in a slow, unwavering embrace. Where the solar wind meets Earth's shield, a gentle ripple forms. It curves like a soft wave breaking over a sleeping shore. This boundary, the bow shock, stretches in a smooth arc before you, cushioning the meeting of solar wind and magnetosphere with the elegance of a whispered greeting. As particles collide and slow, the ripple shifts and glows faintly in your awareness, a thin veil where motion softens into harmony. You drift alongside it, watching the flow of plasma bend around the magnetic field like water parting around a stone. There is no clash, no abrupt disruption, only a quiet negotiation, a blending of energies that forms a beautiful crescent of calm. The ripple thickens and thins as the solar wind ebbs and flows, responding like a living membrane that senses the slightest change in the cosmic breeze. You trace its curve with your drifting presence, feeling how smoothly it guides the wind around Earth's protective field. In this silent meeting place, the vast forces of space soften into a single continuous motion, leaving you suspended in a moment that feels like watching dawn slide gently over a still ocean. Charged particles begin to spiral along magnetic lines, moving in graceful loops. Their paths feel like slow dances in the dark. You follow one of these particles as it curves, drifts, and turns, its motion guided by invisible forces that hold it gently in place. The spiral tightens for a moment, then loosens, widening into long arcs that feel like the drifting petals of a silent cosmic bloom. Each rotation brings it closer to the poles, where magnetic lines converge like threads drawn together by quiet intention. The particle does not rush, it drifts with the patience of something that knows its destination will find it in time. Around you, countless others trace similar paths, weaving a ballet of charged motion that fills the magnetosphere with delicate rhythms. Their spirals shimmer with quiet energy, creating patterns that ripple softly through the surrounding field. As you float among them, these loops feel almost meditative, their slow dances echoing the gentle turning of Earth below. And with each graceful motion, the particles guide you deeper into the calm geometry of space, a place where even motion becomes a form of stillness. Regions of trapped particles hover high above Earth, glowing faintly. Their presence is gentle, a soft hum in the planetary night. These belts form luminous halos held in place by magnetic lines that curve around the world like protective rings. Drifting through them, you sense their quiet energy, a gathering of charged particles that drift in long, slow orbits, circling the planet in serene repetition. The belts feel like suspended clouds of light, weightless and calm, shaped by the delicate balance between motion and magnetic embrace. Even as they shift with changes in space weather, growing, shrinking, pulsing softly, they never lose their tranquil rhythm. You move through their layers as though passing through veils of faint starlight, each moment wrapped in a subtle vibration that hums like distant wind across glass. Far below, Earth glows in blues and whites, but up here the belts create a world of muted radiance, a quiet lantern suspended in the dark. They drift with you as you move, their presence a constant soothing reminder of the planet's hidden harmonies, holding you in a cradle of gentle light. Some particles drift toward the poles, drawn by magnetic threads. They descend slowly, quietly, like sparks searching for rest. As you follow them on their downward journey, the darkness around you begins to soften, touched by faint glimmers that hint at the light soon to come. The particles spiral gently through thinning air, their quiet fall guided by lines that converge like pathways leading home. Each moment brings them closer to the upper atmosphere, where their energy will mingle with molecules waiting in stillness below. The descent feels peaceful, unhurried, a slow approach toward a meeting that is both inevitable and tender. You drift beside them as the glow around you gradually intensifies, a soft prelude to the auroral light that will blossom soon. The sparks continue downward, shimmering like embers drifting through a quiet forest night. And as they near the boundary where sky meets space, you feel the hush deepen, as though the world itself is holding its breath in anticipation of the colors about to rise. A faint glow begins, soft as a sigh across winter sky. It lifts gently, green and serene. The first hint of aurora shimmers, like a ripple of breath spreading across the horizon in a delicate wash of color. You float beneath its growing veil, watching as the light deepens and widens, unfurling in smooth waves that seem to follow an invisible rhythm. The green hue brightens with slow confidence, reaching upward in graceful arcs that glow like lanterns drifting on a cold breeze. As the aurora rises, subtle variations in shade flow through it, soft emerald blending into pale jade, each transition so smooth it feels more like emotion than color. The air around you grows still, touched by the quiet energy of charged particles meeting the upper atmosphere in gentle reunion. Wisps of light curl at the edges of the glow, forming soft folds that sway like silk curtains brushed by a tender wind. And as the first colors settle into the sky, the world feels hushed and luminous, as though night itself is beginning to dream. Auroras ripple like fabric, stirred by a breeze you cannot feel. They move with unhurried grace, each fold glowing softly. As you drift beneath their sweeping motion, the lights unfurl in wide, gentle arcs, rising and falling with the rhythm of a world half dreaming. Each wave seems to follow the one before it, not in imitation, but in harmony, like soft voices humming the same serene melody. Their glow deepens and softens as they stretch farther across the sky, shifting from thin ribbons to broad sheets that flow like silk brushed by starlight. You sense the magnetic currents guiding their motion, subtle and fluid, shaping each ripple with delicate intention. The colors fold over one another with the calm inevitability of tides meeting shore, blending seamlessly into the night. High above, the aurora continues its quiet drift, spreading across the heavens in a dance without sound, urgency, or beginning. In its presence, time loosens, thought slows, and you feel yourself sinking deeper into the tranquil rhythm of its luminous waves. Hints of violet shimmer at the boundary of the aurora's veil. They flicker like distant memories, surfacing and fading. The purple edge traces the sky like a soft whisper, appearing only when the light is just right. A delicate merging of energies reaching their most ethereal expression. You drift closer to the glow, watching as the faint violet deepens, then thins, as though written in ink that dries and vanishes before your eyes. It lingers at the outermost folds of the aurora, where the green softens into blue and the night begins to reclaim its darkness. These shades seem born from moments too gentle to name, glimmers formed from particles meeting the upper atmosphere in a tender exchange. They fade just as quietly, like thoughts dissolving into sleep, leaving behind only the impression of their passage. And as the violet flickers drift into stillness, you feel yourself drifting with them, held softly at the edge where color becomes memory and memory becomes night. High above, soft red light appears, delicate as glowing ash. It spreads slowly, drifting like warmth. This crimson glow unfurls across the upper sky with a subtlety that feels almost hidden, a quiet presence that reveals itself only when the world below has grown truly still. The red light hovers higher than the greens and purples beneath it, forming a silent canopy that moves like embers stirred by a distant hand. You watch as its warmth-like glow expands outward, not in bright bursts, but in long, gentle waves that settle into the dark. Its color deepens in places, softening in others, shifting in slow gradients that evoke the fading coals of a fire long tended and long at rest. The atmosphere receives this light with calm acceptance, letting it settle across its upper layers like a thin veil laid gently over sleeping earth. And as the red aurora drifts across the sky, it brings with it a quiet comfort, a serene warmth that seems to hold the night in a tender, glowing embrace. Electrons travel downward in luminous threads, yet all remains silent. Their motion is a ballet performed in pure stillness. You drift alongside these descending streams of light, watching as they twist and shimmer with a grace that feels impossible in such a vast darkness. Each thread dances along magnetic lines, guided by invisible paths that carry them gently toward the waiting air below. As they fall, they create soft, rippling forms that shift like flowing ribbons suspended in midair. The silence around them feels profound, as though the universe itself is holding its breath to watch this quiet descent. The electrons meet the upper atmosphere with a touch so delicate it is more suggestion than contact, releasing a faint glow that spreads through the sky like a soft hum translated into light. Their descent continues, calm and unbroken, a slow cascade of energy that illuminates the night without ever disturbing its stillness. And as you float beside them, their silent ballet carries you deeper into the peacefulness that surrounds their luminous fall. At Earth's poles, the upper air glows, as if remembering an ancient dream. You drift beneath its colors, feeling its calm wisdom. The sky here moves differently, slow, expansive, unhurried, as though repeating a story it has told for millennia. Light gathers in quiet swells, stretching across the horizon in shapes that seem both familiar and newly born, like memories rising from deep within the planet itself. You sense the steady pulse of the magnetic field guiding each glow, each ripple, forming patterns shaped by forces older than human thought. As you float through the polar air, the colors feel alive, breathing in long, gentle cycles that echo the turning of the earth below. The atmosphere seems to wrap itself around the sky, creating a cradle of soft radiance that invites you to rest within its embrace. And in that glow, in that ancient calm, you feel a connection to the quiet continuity of the world, a reminder that some lights shine not to be seen, but to gently hold all who drift beneath them. Sometimes faint, sometimes strong, these auroras shimmer like pale whispers. They glow with a softness that feels almost secret. Proton auroras move with a quiet insistence, their light shifting subtly, as though rising from the very breath of the magnetic field itself. You float near their delicate shimmer, watching as faint streaks of brightness glide downward in smooth, narrow lines that appear and vanish with little warning. Their glow lacks the wide, sweeping motion of electron auroras, instead forming slender beams that fall like soft rain made of color. Each flicker feels intimate, reserved, a small confession of light shared only with the night. The atmosphere receives these whispers gently, allowing them to pass through with minimal fanfare, as though honoring their understated presence. As you drift beside them, the quiet becomes deeper, the sky dimming and brightening in small, subtle waves. These secretive glimmers draw you inward, encouraging a softer kind of attention, one that listens not for spectacle, but for the faint traces of beauty found in the most delicate motions of the sky. Lights brighten and fade in rhythmic pulses. The sky seems to breathe with them. With each soft glow, the aurora expands gently outward, and with each dimming, it draws inward again, forming a natural cadence that soothes your senses. These pulsating lights move like the slow beat of a distant heart, steady and unforced, rising and settling in serene repetition. You float beneath the shifting brightness, feeling each pulse resonate through the quiet air, as though the sky itself is exhaling calm. The shapes that appear are soft and ever-changing, blooming for a moment before dissolving back into shadow, only to rise again in the next gentle wave. The rhythm has no urgency, no demand, only a tranquil persistence that invites you to drift into its timing. As you follow the pulses, your thoughts begin to sync with their steady flow, each brightening a soft awakening, each fading a return to rest. And in this luminous breathing of the sky, you find yourself sinking deeper into peaceful stillness. A single auroral arc stretches across the horizon, then blossoms upward. It expands like a glowing diadem placed on night. The arc brightens gently, its edges softening as new waves of light rise from within, lifting into the sky with the ease of petals opening to moonlight. You drift beneath it, watching as the arc folds outward in delicate layers, transforming from a thin ribbon of green into a sweeping crown of luminous color. Each new curve unfurls without haste, giving the impression of a sky awakening in slow motion. The arc's brilliance deepens as it rises, casting a serene glow across the silent atmosphere, illuminating the night with a quiet majesty. Its shape expands until it forms a vast, graceful canopy overhead, a coronet of shifting light that seems to honor the stillness of the earth below. And as the crown continues to bloom, you feel a gentle reverence settling over the scene, as though the sky itself is offering a moment of calm beauty meant only for those who drift softly beneath its glow. Swirls of light twist in slow, dreamy rotation. Their motion feels like drifting through a half-remembered moment. The spirals form and unwind in serene loops, curling through the night like echoes of forgotten thoughts. Rising to the surface, you float alongside their turning shapes, watching as they fold over themselves with a grace so subtle it feels almost imagined. The colors shift gently within each spiral, blending greens, blues, and purples into patterns that move like soft eddies in a quiet pool. Their rotation carries no sense of direction, only a continuous, fluid unfolding that seems to draw you inward. The longer you drift with the spirals, the more they resemble the slow turning of galaxies in miniature cosmic memories playing out on a smaller, more intimate stage. The motion never quickens, never falters. It simply drifts, inviting you to join its gentle rotation. And as the spirals continue their dreamy dance, you feel yourself moving with them, carried softly by the quiet rhythm of their endless turning. Sometimes the aurora blurs into a soft haze, wide and cloud-like. Its light settles across the sky like a quiet blanket. The edges dissolve into gentle gradients, the colors blending until they feel less like distinct shades and more like the sky's own natural breath. You drift through this diffuse glow, as though moving through illuminated fog, each motion slow and muffled by the peaceful thickness of the light. The aurora's usual ribbons and curves fade here, replaced by a wide, glowing mist that spreads with calm intention across the dark. It brightens subtly in some places, dims in others, creating soft patches that shimmer like moonlit dew. The atmosphere beneath feels hushed, as if wrapped in the comforting glow of a nightlight left burning for a sleeping world. The haze lingers without urgency, holding its place across the sky in an embrace that feels both protective and soothing. And as you drift beneath its gentle veil, the diffuse aurora settles deeper into your awareness, inviting you to rest in the tranquil hush it leaves behind. Small pockets of brightness flash within the larger glow, they appear like fireflies caught in a silent storm. Each tiny spark blooms for the briefest moment, then melts back into the auroral curtain as though swallowed by the night. You drift closer, watching as these microbursts flicker in delicate, unpredictable rhythms, never startling, never loud, just soft, momentary breaths of light, rising from the meeting of particles and magnetic fields. They seem to pulse in hidden patterns, some bright and sharp like tiny stars awakening, others faint as the memory of a dream fading before fully forming. These sparks appear and disappear in clusters, creating constellations that shift and dissolve in the blink of an eye. Though fleeting, their glow feels gentle and intimate, like whispers woven into the broader radiance of the sky. As you float among them, the microbursts feel like reminders of the small, quiet miracles that unfold in the universe without demand for attention, brief flashes of beauty that exist simply because the cosmos allows them to, shimmering softly before returning to stillness. Behind Earth, the magnetosphere drifts into a long, shimmering tail. You float along it as if drifting down a peaceful river. The magnetotail stretches far into the night, its shape narrowing gracefully as it extends away from the sun, forming a gentle corridor of charged particles and magnetic lines. The farther you drift along its length, the softer everything feels, as though you've slipped into a realm where motion exists without effort or sound. Subtle currents guide you forward, carrying you through regions where faint lights shimmer like reflections on deep, dark water. The tail sways slightly in response to the solar wind, its movement so delicate it feels like the slow rocking of a cradle. Here, distance loses meaning. The magnetotail seems to continue endlessly, a quiet passageway leading you deeper into the calm of space. As you glide along its luminous length, the world behind you grows smaller, dimmer, more distant, until you feel suspended between Earth's gentle protection and the vast openness beyond. And in that drifting stillness, the long tail becomes a pathway of pure serenity. Far away, magnetic lines snap and merge in quiet rearrangement. Their motion releases energy in a silent sigh. You watch as these invisible threads twist and tighten, then suddenly reconnect, forming new patterns that ripple outward with soft, unseen force. Though this process holds immense power, from your vantage, the release feels almost tender, like the relaxing of a knotted muscle in the body of space. The surrounding magnetic field shivers gently, adjusting to its new configuration with the grace of silk settling on still air. Each reconnection sends a subtle wave through the magnetosphere, a slow pulse of energy that drifts outward and fades with dreamlike ease. You float in the wake of these changes, sensing how naturally the universe shifts between tension and release, between holding and letting go. There is no urgency in this motion, no violence, only the fluid rearranging of forces that have been dancing with one another for billions of years. And as you drift through the gentle aftermath, you feel the quiet harmony restored in the dark. Plasma flows back toward our planet, calm and steady. It travels like a returning tide seeking the shore. Drawn along magnetic lines, the particles drift inward with a softness that belies their energy, moving in long, graceful streams that seem to follow the heartbeat of the earth itself. As you float beside them, you sense how the magnetosphere guides their descent, shaping their motion with a gentle, familiar pull. The returning plasma glows faintly, its light barely visible yet undeniably present, a soft reflection of the sun's distant breath. This inward flow feels like a homecoming, the universe gathering what it had sent outward, embracing it once more in quiet reunion. The tide thickens as it draws near the upper atmosphere, slowing as though savoring the final stretch of its journey. And as the particles merge with Earth's protective layers, their motion dissolves into the calm of the sky, leaving behind only the sense of a cycle completing itself, ready to begin again when the time is right. Even the strongest space storms feel softened at this distance. Their energy unfolds like rumbling clouds far away. The magnetosphere swells gently under the pressure, stretching and flexing like a deep breath taken in slow motion. From where you drift, the storm resembles a distant sunrise not yet visible, felt before seen, present but muted beneath layers of calm. Currents ripple through the magnetic field, spreading in long, smooth waves that move with the patience of rivers finding their course. Fluctuations whisper across the sky, but nothing breaks the quiet. Even the most powerful events are carried in muted tones, softened by distance and harmony. You sense the planet responding with equal gentleness, adjusting, balancing, absorbing the storm's energy with the grace of a sleeping world, shifting under warm blankets. And as the space storm continues its slow unfolding, you float within the serene buffer of Earth's magnetic embrace, feeling only the subtle reminders of forces working far beyond the silence. A substorm begins quietly, like a curtain being drawn. Its glow grows slowly, patiently. You watch as faint arcs of light gather strength, thickening into curves that stretch across the sky with deliberate softness. The substorm expands outward in slow waves, each one building upon the last without urgency, as though the sky is waking from a long, restful dream. Particles cascade along magnetic lines, creating gentle bursts of brightness that spread through the auroral oval like new colors poured into a waiting canvas. The light swirls lightly, forming shapes that drift and dissolve as soon as they appear, never lingering long enough to disturb the night. And yet, with each passing moment, the glow becomes richer, more layered, revealing the quiet choreography of forces converging unseen. By the time the substorm reaches its full serene bloom, the sky has become a living tapestry of soft illumination, moving with grace and intention, and you drift within it, wrapped in the glow of a cosmic unfurling that feels both powerful and tender. Waves spread through the upper atmosphere, soft and invisible. Their movement feels like the air is remembering how to hum. These ripples travel outward in concentric rings, shifting electric and magnetic fields in subtle patterns that feel like vibrations rather than motion. You float within these waves, sensing their passage as a faint tingling in the vast stillness around you, a delicate reminder that even silence has texture. The ionosphere responds gently, adjusting its density and glow as each ripple flows through, like water rippling beneath the moon's reflection. As the waves continue to spread, they carry with them a soft continuity, linking distant regions of the atmosphere in a single fluid motion. The sky seems to resonate with this quiet humming, deepening the sense of calm that fills the night. Drifting through these invisible currents, you feel as though you are gliding through the breath of the planet itself, slow, peaceful, and endlessly soothing. Sometimes, space weather rests completely. In that stillness, you feel the peace of a world untouched. The magnetosphere settles into perfect balance, its boundaries smooth and steady like unmoving water. Solar wind flows past without disruption, gliding smoothly around Earth's shield as though reluctant to disturb the quiet. With no storms to rouse the Skazi, the ionosphere clears, its glow dimming into a soft, transparent calm. You float through this serene expanse, sensing how rare and precious such quiet moments are when the universe presses pause on its more dynamic motions. The silence feels deep, almost ancient, as though echoing through layers of time where nothing stirred but the slow turning of the earth below. Everything holds its place without strain, without effort, suspended in a moment of pure cosmic rest. And as you drift through this hush, you feel that stillness settle into you as well. A calm so complete it feels as if even your thoughts have softened into quiet. High energy particles arrive from distant stars, wandering for eons. They pass through space like ancient travelers crossing a silent sea. These cosmic rays drift with a persistence that feels timeless, moving through galaxies, nebulae, and the vastness between them with no destination but forward. You float beside their paths, sensing the age carried within them, the stories of distant explosions and stellar winds etched invisibly into their journey. They travel alone, unaffected by the boundaries that shape worlds and systems, slipping through magnetic fields and interstellar clouds with quiet determination. Though powerful, they arrive at Earth like gentle visitors, softened by the long distances they have crossed. Each particle seems to carry a whisper from a star long gone, a message written in energy rather than words. As they drift past you, their motion feels like the slow passage of time itself, unhurried and eternal. They wander on, continuing their ancient trek across the universe, leaving in their wake a deep sense of the vast ages through which they have drifted. As these cosmic wanderers reach Earth, the atmosphere gently slows them. It wraps the planet in a protective hush. The air grows denser as the particles descend, cushioning their motion with soft, invisible hands. Their immense energy dissipates into faint glimmers of light or subtle chemical traces, dispersed so gently that the sky barely stirs in response. You drift through the upper layers where this quiet meeting takes place, feeling the serene efficiency with which the atmosphere manages each arrival. Every particle is welcomed, eased, softened, transformed. The turbulence that once propelled it smoothed into a calm, barely perceptible sigh. The deeper they sink, the more the atmosphere embraces them, slowing them into complete stillness before they vanish into the rhythms of the world below. From high above, Earth's sky feels like a vast, tender blanket, absorbing each cosmic visitor with unwavering patience. And as you float through its quiet protection, you feel that same hush settling over you, steady, comforting, endlessly gentle. Every planet has its own quiet response to the sun's breath. You imagine these worlds wrapped in invisible tides. Each one moves through space with its own rhythm, its own gentle way of meeting the steady flow of charged particles drifting outward from the solar surface. You picture these worlds not as distant stones, but as calm, ancient beings breathing softly in the sun's glow, their atmospheres and magnetic fields rising and falling with each subtle change in the solar wind. Some worlds bow beneath its touch, others hold their ground, and still others let the wind pass through them like a whisper through tall grass. You drift from planet to planet in your mind, watching how each one shapes and smooths the currents surrounding it. The solar wind becomes less a force and more a quiet conversation between star and world, spoken in particles and light. And in that gentle exchange, You feel the universe settling into harmony all around you, each world held in its own shimmering tide of space weather. Without a global magnetic field, Mars meets the solar wind directly. Its atmosphere drifts away in slow whispers. You hover above the rusty horizon, watching as delicate tendrils of gas rise into the sunlight and dissolve into space, fading like breath on a cold morning. There is no shield here to cradle the air, only ancient remnants of magnetism locked in scattered patches of crust, offering small pockets of quiet resistance. The rest simply lets go, yielding softly to the solar wind's persistent caress. Over long ages, the planet has thinned, its skies growing faint and ethereal, until only a fragile veil remains. Yet there is peace in that surrender, a stillness that feels almost contemplative, as though Mars has accepted its place in the cosmic breeze. You drift above it, sensing that quiet, patient release, an atmosphere loosening its hold, one gentle particle at a time, carried away into the wider dark with infinite calm. Venus creates a magnetic cloak from solar wind itself. It swirls around the planet like warm fog. You drift through this induced bubble of protection, watching how the charged particles wrap themselves into a gentle barrier, embracing the planet despite the intense heat below. The cloak shifts and folds with the slow rhythm of the solar wind, its edges glowing faintly where particles meet the planet's upper atmosphere. It feels like drifting through layers of luminous mist, each one smoothing the sun's breath before it reaches the world beneath. Even though Venus is fierce and bright, its interaction with space weather moves with surprising softness, as though the planet wears a shimmering gown woven from light and motion. As you float along the outer edge, you sense how this delicate, ever-changing boundary has shaped the planet's story, an invisible dance between star and atmosphere that continues without haste, without sound, without end. Mercury's tiny magnetosphere trembles under solar wind pressure. It bends like reeds in a gentle breeze. From your quiet vantage, the planet seems small and brave, holding its fragile magnetic shield against the sun's constant exhale. The boundary quivers softly, shimmering like a thin veil caught between warmth and shadow. Though it is often pressed and reshaped, the magnetosphere never breaks. It simply sways, adjusting with fluid resilience. The solar wind flows around it like water around a stone, leaving ripples of charged particles drifting downstream. You watch these delicate motions unfold, each one steady, each one calm, as though the tiniest planet has learned to survive by moving with the rhythm of the sun rather than standing against it. And in that surrender, Mercury finds a soft, enduring balance, floating peacefully in the sun's warm embrace. Jupiter holds the largest magnetic field of any planet. It stretches outward like an enormous, peaceful ocean. You drift through this vast expanse, feeling its slow, deep presence surrounding you like a quiet, invisible sea. Jupiter's field cradles its moons, its rings, and the swirling dust within it, creating a realm where particles drift in long, graceful arcs, shaped by the giant planet's magnetic tides. Even far from the planet's surface, the field feels alive, broad, patient, and steady, as if it breathes with the planet's immense rotation. Light glimmers faintly where charged particles spiral along magnetic lines, tracing delicate paths through the dark. The sheer scale of it creates a sense of floating through a serene, cosmic sanctuary where storms move in slow motion and energy hums in deep, soothing tones. Within this magnetic sea, everything feels connected, gathered, and held. The volcanic moon Io interacts with Jupiter's field in glowing patterns. Its energy traces luminous curves across the giant planet. You drift above the scene, watching thin cords of charged particles flow from Io's orbit down into Jupiter's atmosphere, creating soft, glowing footprints that appear and fade like embers breathed into life. Even though the moon is fiery and restless, its contribution to Jupiter's auroras feels tender, like a child leaving bright fingerprints on the surface of a sleeping giant. The arcs of light pulse gently, reflecting the moon's volcanic rhythms in colors that shimmer across the planet's swirling clouds. You float in the quiet space between moon and planet, sensing the pull of their magnetic connection, a gentle tether made of particles, light, and motion. Each luminous curve seems to hum with a soft, distant warmth, as though Io and Jupiter are sharing a silent conversation across the dark. Charged dust dances among Saturn's rings. Their glow flickers like moonlit frost. You drift through the delicate banded arcs, watching tiny grains of ice and rock shimmer as they interact with Saturn's magnetic field. Some particles rise and fall in gentle waves, lifted by faint electric forces that flow quietly through the rings like whispered currents. Others sparkle with soft, static light, creating small, ephemeral flashes that twinkle like frost crystals catching evening glow. The entire ring system feels alive in a subtle, graceful way, constantly shifting, constantly settling, constantly responding to the movement of the world it surrounds. As you float deeper into the rings, the light scatters around you, forming halos that drift and dissolve with every slight motion. It feels like wandering through a snowy dream, suspended in the dark, where everything glimmers softly, but nothing ever startles the silence. Titan drifts within Saturn's magnetic calm. Its atmosphere moves with slow, dreamy currents. You glide above the moon's hazy surface, watching thick layers of orange mist swirl with the patience of ancient clouds. The magnetic protection around Titan softens the solar wind, allowing its rich atmosphere to expand and breathe with gentle rhythm. The air glows faintly where particles mingle with sunlight, creating a muted halo that wraps the moon in warm pastel tones. As you drift through this quiet realm, Titan feels like a world wrapped in its own slowness, soft skies, calm winds, and an atmosphere that seems to drift as though half asleep. The deeper you float into its haze, the more the edges blur, colors blending into one another like watercolor brushed across wet paper. Here, everything feels hushed, suspended, and serene. Uranus spins on its side, making its magnetic field sway oddly. Yet even this strangeness feels serene. You drift through the tilted field, watching how its lines coil and lean in ways no other planet shares. Instead of alignment, there is gentle misalignment, a quiet defiance of symmetry that gives the field a dreamy, wandering quality. The magnetic poles drift far from the geographic ones, creating soft spirals of charged particles that wrap the planet in shifting patterns. Nothing moves abruptly. Every motion is slow, unhurried, almost languid, as though Uranus prefers a sideways slumber rather than an upright spin. You float along the outer edge of its field, feeling the subtle tug of its rotation, guiding particles into lazy arcs. In this tilted wonder, the odd becomes peaceful, the unusual becomes soothing, and the strangeness becomes simply another way of being calm in the dark. Neptune's field is offset, drifting through its deep blue atmosphere. Auroras shimmer there like faint ocean reflections. You watch as pale ribbons of light ripple across the planet's upper air, moving with the softness of waves spreading through quiet water. The magnetic field shifts gently beneath them, guiding their glow into arcs that seem to sway with Neptune's winds. The blue backdrop deepens their color, making the auroras appear like underwater lanterns drifting upward from unseen depths. You float above this radiant dance, sensing the cool serenity that defines Neptune's distant realm: calm winds, slow storms, and light that moves in low, whispering tones. Even in its offset strangeness, the magnetic field creates beauty that feels tranquil and ethereal, like moonlight reflected across a vast, still sea. A wavy plane of magnetic influence spirals outward from the sun. You float along its curves like gliding on calm waves. The sheet twists gently through the solar system, bending and lifting as though it were a soft ribbon drifting in a slow current. Its shape changes with the pace of the sun's rotation, each oscillation wide and unhurried, spreading across billions of miles with the ease of a sigh. You drift closer, sensing the subtle shifts in polarity that ripple across its surface, like passing from warm air into cool, then back again. The current sheet feels alive in a quiet way, moving with the serenity of a tide that has flowed since the earliest days of the sun. As you glide along its smooth contours, the world behind you fades into softness, and the sheet becomes a gentle pathway stretching outward into the calm, endless dark. Regions of opposite polarity form gentle layers in space. They pass by like changing seasons. You drift through these sectors as though moving from one shade of light to another, each boundary subtle, each transition smooth. The solar wind carries these layers outward, stretching them into long, serene expanses that wrap the solar system in quiet organization. Crossing a boundary feels like stepping into a slightly different mood, still peaceful, still slow, but touched with a new hue of magnetic influence. These sectors drift around you like soft pieces of sky, rearranging themselves without sound or effort. And as the layers flow past, you sense their quiet rhythm, a cosmic cycle unfolding far beyond the scale of days or years. Their passage is gentle, inevitable, and endlessly calm, as natural as sunset yielding to twilight. Solar wind twists into a graceful, spiral shape. You travel along it as though following a celestial ribbon. The spiral unfurls through the solar system with elegant, expanding curves, shaped by the slow rotation of the sun. As you drift along its path, the coil seems to breathe, widening as it travels outward, each turn becoming softer, more spacious. The particles flowing within this spiral glide like dust caught in a sunbeam, drifting in smooth, steady motion that never breaks the quiet around you. The farther you float along it, the more the spiral resembles a vast, luminous path stretching endlessly through the dark. Its curves cradle you with a gentle guidance, leading you deeper into space without urgency, without direction, only the soft unfolding of a cosmic ribbon opening itself to infinity. Dark patches on the sun release steady, gentle streams of wind. Their breath is constant, like a low, endless lullaby. You drift above these coronal holes, watching their cool, open regions expand across the solar surface like shadowed lakes. From each one, solar wind flows outward in smooth, persistent currents, spreading through space like warm exhalations into the cold. Though these regions are cooler and quieter than their surroundings, their influence travels far, shaping the solar wind across great distances. As you hover in the slow stream, the motion feels soothing, steady, unwavering, familiar. It carries no rush, no turmoil, only a quiet constancy that cradles you as you drift. The sun's breath, born from these darkened openings, becomes a lullaby stretching across the vastness, its song soft enough to ease an entire system into calm. Beyond the planets, space widens into calm immensity. The wind here feels ancient, unhurried. You glide into this broad expanse where the solar system structures soften and the steady outward flow becomes a quiet background presence. Here, particles drift with the patience of old travelers who have long forgotten haste. The stars seem farther apart, the darkness more open, the silence deeper and more complete. Solar wind expands gently, thinning into a vast, diffuse tide that moves with a rhythm older than planets, older than orbits. As you float farther into this interplanetary quiet, the sense of scale grows immense, as though the universe itself has exhaled and settled into serene stillness. There is no boundary here, only widening space, soft wind, and the slow drift of time. Waves of charged particles roll through space like ripples in deep water. Their motion is soft, subtle, and soothing. You drift among them, feeling each wave move past with the gentlest sensation, like a faint breeze brushing across your thoughts. These plasma waves travel in long, overlapping patterns, creating a quiet network of motion that fills the darkness with texture. Some pulses are broad and slow, others light and delicate, but all seem to move in harmony, spreading through space with unhurried ease. As they roll and fade, they create a soft rhythm in the unseen currents, a cosmic tide rising and falling around you. Their passage reminds you of the ocean, vast, unbounded, and comforting. Yet here, in space, the waves leave no sound, only a deep, enveloping calm. Some waves descend in gentle, descending tones. They travel as if singing lullabies no ear can hear. You drift beside them, sensing their presence not through sound, but through a soft, downward pull, like the feeling of sinking into warm blankets at the end of a long day. These whistler waves spiral along magnetic lines, creating quiet, sloping patterns that shimmer in the dark. Their motion feels deliberate yet feather-light, descending slowly as though guiding you deeper into rest. Even though they move at incredible speeds, from your calm vantage, every shift feels slowed, softened, transformed into a soothing drift downward. Each invisible note seems to fade into the next, forming a gentle melody carried on the currents of space. You float with them, letting their soft descent draw you into deeper stillness. In the magnetosphere, rising tones create a faint chorus. It sounds like distant birds greeting a timeless dawn. The chorus forms from energetic particles spiraling along magnetic lines, their motions producing waves that rise in gentle sweeps. Though no sound truly echoes here, you sense the upward lilt of invisible notes carrying through the quiet. The tones overlap like soft voices in harmony, each one drifting higher until it dissolves into the vastness of space. As you float within this whispered symphony, the magnetosphere feels alive, humming with a delicate, uplifting energy that surrounds the planet like a soft halo. The rising tones continue their upward drift, creating the impression of light slowly forming on the horizon of a silent morning. Wrapped in this chorus, you feel weightless, unhurried, attuned to the peaceful rhythm of the planetary dawn. Ions spiral slowly, creating waves that drift outward. Their rhythm feels like a heartbeat, slowed by sleep. You drift close enough to sense the gentle pulsing of these ion cyclotron waves, each rotation sending a soft ripple through the surrounding plasma. The ions move with quiet precision, tracing steady circles that seem to glow faintly in the dark. Their spiraling motion becomes a calming pattern, a slow dance that repeats without hurry, without end. The waves produced by their movement drift outward like expanding rings in a placid pond, carrying with them the peaceful cadence of their origin. As you glide through these rippling motions, you feel the deep tranquility embedded in their rhythm, an ancient, cosmic heartbeat echoing across space, steady and serene. Some waves hold their position, humming quietly in place. They linger like thoughts that refuse to leave but no longer disturb. You drift near these standing waves, feeling their gentle presence suspended in the darkness. They vibrate without traveling, creating small pockets of calm resonance that seem to cradle the space around them. The hum is soft, steady, almost meditative, as though the universe has settled a quiet reminder in this one location. These waves feel like memories made of energy, still, patient, and content to remain where they are. As you float through their unmoving shapes, you sense how they anchor the surrounding plasma, providing a subtle structure within the fluid motions of the magnetosphere. Their quiet persistence is soothing, a steady whisper that fills the planetary night with gentle reassurance. Coronal mass ejections expand like soft, rolling clouds. From afar, their movement feels gentle. You watch as vast billows of solar material unfold outward, drifting through space with the slow motion calm of mist rising over a quiet valley. Their edges smooth themselves into softness as they spread, turning what could be violent into something that feels almost tender from this distance. The deeper you gaze, the more the CME resembles a luminous cloudscape drifting across a starlit sea, each layer expanding with patient ease. Though born from intense energy, their outward flow becomes a serene exhale once freed into the open dark. You float beside them, feeling no threat, only the steady, graceful unfolding of a cosmic cloud drifting farther into the solar wind. A CME drifts through the solar wind, carried like a leaf on a river. Its edges glow faintly as it travels. The background wind guides it onward, smoothing its surface, turning its journey into an effortless glide through the vastness. You follow its path, sensing how each swirl of plasma bends and softens, blending into the currents flowing from the sun. Tiny particles trace luminous trails along its boundary, creating the impression of slow sparks moving across the surface of a drifting lantern. The CME stretches and diffuses as it moves farther, its brightness dimming into a quiet glow. There is no rush to its passage, just the gentle surrender of a cloud carried by currents older than planets. And you drift with it, becoming part of its long, serene journey through open space. If it grazes our world, the magnetosphere gently bends. It flexes softly, like fabric touched by wind. You watch the boundary ripple outward, absorbing the CME's arrival with the ease of a curtain shifting in a quiet room. The movement is graceful, smooth, a response shaped by balance rather than force. The CME's front melts into the magnetic shield, its energy dispersing in soft gradients that travel across the field like spreading warmth. As the magnetosphere stretches and rebounds, it feels like witnessing the Earth take a slow, calm breath, a momentary deepening, followed by a serene release. Even in the face of vast solar energy, the motion remains peaceful, a gentle meeting between star and planet that ends in soft equilibrium. On Earth's surface, subtle electric fields begin to form. They spread like faint ripples under the ground. You sense them traveling silently through soil, stone, and water, their presence delicate as a memory drifting through the mind. These fields rise in response to the shifting magnetosphere above, creating patterns that move slowly across continents like invisible tides. Nothing stirs on the surface, no sound marks their passage. Instead, the fields expand with an unhurried rhythm, connecting distant regions in a soft, electrical whisper. They fade as gently as they begin, leaving only the sense that something ancient and quiet has brushed the earth, an energy that moved beneath your feet without ever disturbing the stillness of the night. During strong space weather, auroras broaden their reach. Light flows outward like a slowly rising tide. You watch as the shimmering boundary expands, spreading across the sky in long, smooth waves of color. Greens deepen, reds brighten, purples swirl like soft ink stirred through clear water. The aurora stretches toward lower latitudes, its motion unhurried and fluid, like a blanket being gently unfurled. From above, the widening glow forms a luminous ring around the planet, growing thicker and more radiant as particles fill the upper atmosphere. The expansion is quiet, almost contemplative, as though the sky is slowly opening its arms, and as the tide of light reaches its fullest extent, the world below is bathed in a calm, dreamlike glow. At the very top of the world, auroras form an unbroken ring. It glows like a quiet crown resting on earth. From above, you see it circling the pole with serene perfection, a halo of drifting light that seems to hover just above the atmosphere. Its colors shift with the softness of breath, brightening, dimming, brightening again in slow pulses. The ring feels ancient and ceremonial, as though the planet has adorned itself in shimmering calm for the night. The light flows steadily around the circle, meeting itself again and again in a seamless loop of quiet motion. Floating above this glowing crown, you feel its peaceful rhythm draw you into deeper stillness, a reminder of the gentle power woven into the fabric of space weather. Space weather reshapes Earth's upper atmosphere in drifting waves. Everything shifts softly, without rush. You sense layers of charged particles rising and falling, like the slow swell of a sleeping ocean. Colors dim, densities change, and faint currents form where none existed before, all moving with a patience that feels infinite. These transformations ripple through the ionosphere in delicate patterns, never abrupt, always smooth, creating a sky that subtly rearranges itself without ever disturbing the silence. You drift within these shifting layers, feeling the quiet beauty of an atmosphere adjusting with grace, reshaping itself in response to faraway solar winds. Each wave passes gently through the next, forming a calm, continuous dance across the upper air. Signals stretch and bend as they move through the ionosphere. Their journeys become long, dreamy arcs. You imagine radio waves gliding through layers of charged particles, refracting softly like moonlight, bending through water. Each wave drifts along the contours of the upper atmosphere, lengthening its path as though savoring the journey. The signals wander farther than usual, curling around the curve of the Earth before descending toward distant horizons. Their shimmering trails create the sense of soft threads weaving through night, carrying whispers across thousands of miles in hushed, unhurried motion. As they pass, the ionosphere shifts gently around them, shaping their course with the same tenderness that guides all things in this quiet, drifting sky. The increased energy slightly warms the upper air. Satellites drift a little lower, like feathers settling. You watch their orbits respond with gentle descent, each satellite sliding into a slightly tighter path around the Earth. The motion is slow, almost imperceptible, as though gravity is gently coaxing them closer. The warmed atmosphere brushes against their surfaces, creating a faint, persistent drag that guides their descent with soft consistency. Even as they shift, nothing feels abrupt. Their orbits adjust like snowflakes drifting through still air, graceful and patient. From above, you see their paths curve with serenity, each one gliding through the quiet, thin layers of Earth's extended breath. Earth's field begins to hum in slow pulses. The planet seems to breathe deeper with each one. You sense the magnetic lines expanding and contracting in soft rhythms, their motion spreading through space like the gentle beating of an enormous sleeping heart. Each pulse carries a subtle wave of energy, rising and falling with the steadiness of breath at rest. The hum resonates through the magnetosphere, shaping the flow of particles and guiding their paths in quiet harmony. You drift in the midst of these pulses, feeling their calm presence wrap around the planet like a soothing aura. With every slow oscillation, the Earth seems to settle deeper into its own peaceful rhythm, inviting you to settle with it. Other suns release winds and flares too, each unique. Their storms unfold in silence across vast distances. You drift through star fields where every point of light holds its own quiet temperament, its own rhythm of outflow and glow. The flares from these distant suns bloom without sound, expanding into the dark like luminous flowers that open and fade in slow motion. Their winds move outward in wide, gentle streams, softened by distance until they feel no stronger than a soft exhale passing through endless space. Even the most turbulent eruptions become soothing when seen from afar, their energy diffused into the tranquil stillness between the stars. As you float among them, the universe feels like a gallery of silent storms, each one unfolding with grace, each one adding a soft shimmer to the cosmic night. These tiny stars erupt often, but from afar the light feels gentle. It flickers like a candle sheltered in cupped hands. Red dwarfs pulse with bursts of brightness that drift outward in small glowing waves, their motion softened by the vastness of space until each flare resembles a warm heartbeat in the dark. You watch their light tremble slightly, as though carried on a breeze that exists only in their own intimate corner of the galaxy. The eruptions that up close would be fierce are transformed at this distance into soft, rhythmic breaths of illumination. Their glow deepens and fades in slow cycles, wrapping the surrounding void in a warmth that feels steady and reassuring. Floating near their light, you sense a calm resilience, tiny stars flickering gently, keeping their quiet vigil in the night. Massive stars release winds far stronger than our suns, yet distance softens them into a calm, drifting haze. You hover in the far reaches where their tremendous energy has expanded into a diffuse, shimmering glow, spreading like mist through interstellar space. The winds carry particles with immense momentum, but by the time they reach you, they have slowed into gentle drifts that move with serene deliberation. Their presence feels more like a warm cloud brushing past than a storm, broad, deep, and unhurried. The star itself glows fiercely at the center, but from afar it seems wrapped in a luminous halo of slow-moving wind, radiating quiet strength. As you float through this soft haze, The scale of the star's power becomes a comforting backdrop, a reminder that even the mightiest forces can become tranquil when embraced by the vastness of space. Distant worlds form shields of their own. You imagine these invisible cocoons glowing softly. Their magnetospheres curve around them like gentle bubbles, shaped by starlight and wind, holding each world in a quiet, protective embrace. You drift close to one such planet, sensing the faint hum of charged particles spiraling along its magnetic lines, tracing soft patterns in the space around it. The shield bends the stellar wind gracefully, guiding the flow like a river splitting around a smooth stone. Each exoplanet has its own magnetic signature, some strong, some fragile, all unique. From a distance, these cocoons seem like dim auras, glowing with the subtle energy of a world protecting itself. They stretch and compress in slow rhythms, adjusting to the ever-changing breath of their host star, bringing a sense of calm resilience to the planetary night. Exoplanets may host auroras more vivid than our own. Their skies shimmer with colors no eye has seen. You imagine curtains of light rising over alien mountains, glowing in hues that shift between shades unknown, soft blues tinged with silver, purples that melt into gold, greens deepened into luminous jade. These auroras ripple with unhurried grace, drifting across the horizon like waves of light moving through a dream. They pulse in response to distant stellar storms, blooming into radiant halos that encircle the poles of worlds far beyond our reach. As you hover above these imagined horizons, the alien auroras feel both familiar and entirely new, shimmering with the quiet promise that the universe holds endless ways to glow. The skies breathe with color, dissolving slowly into the darkness as though whispering lullabies no human ear has ever heard. Some planets lose air to their host star's wind. It rises softly into space like breath on a cold night. You watch as faint wisps drift upward, thinning as they ascend, stretching into the star's light before dissolving into the quiet. This slow escape is gentle from afar, an atmospheric sigh that unfolds over millennia, never hurried, never abrupt. The planet below remains calm, wrapped in a quiet balance between holding and letting go. You drift alongside the rising particles, sensing their delicate journey as they join the stellar wind, becoming part of the long currents that move between worlds. The erosion feels almost meditative, a slow unspooling of air that returns to the starlit vastness from which it once came, leaving behind the soft imprint of time's patient touch. Gravitational pulls shape magnetic motions in subtle ways. These rhythms echo across systems like deep, slow tides. You drift through these invisible forces, sensing how the movement of one world influences the magnetism of another, each tug creating a soft sway in the cosmic fabric. The dance is gentle, extending through orbits and rotations, creating patterns that unfold over long stretches of time. Magnetic fields bend and pivot in response, adjusting their shapes with a patience that feels almost timeless. These tidal motions ripple outward, carried through plasma and light, forming a quiet choreography that links worlds, moons, and stars. As you float within this interconnected stillness, you feel the deep serenity of cosmic tides, subtle, enduring, and endlessly peaceful. Two stars interact, their winds weaving together. The space between them glows with shared energy. You drift through this luminous corridor, where the outflows from each star blend into a soft, radiant field. The particles interlace like threads of silk, forming gentle patterns that ripple through the space between the suns. Though the interaction holds immense energy, from your vantage, it feels like watching two slow streams merge, their waters flowing side by side in serene harmony. Light shimmers faintly where the winds meet, creating a quiet glow that expands and fades with the rhythm of the stars' magnetic cycles. As you hover in the glowing passage, the binary system feels like a quiet duet, two stars breathing into the same space, their combined winds creating a calm, shared dawn. Beyond the heliosphere, a faint interstellar breeze flows. It brushes against the sun's bubble like a cool sigh. You drift along the outer boundary, where the warm solar wind meets the deeper, older currents of the galaxy. The interstellar wind moves slowly, carrying tiny grains of ancient dust and faint traces of atoms born in distant stars. Its touch is gentle, smoothing the outer shell of the heliosphere, pressing lightly against it with the softness of evening air against a window. The breeze has traveled unimaginable distances, yet it arrives with quiet grace, bringing with it the stillness of the wider galaxy. As you float through this boundary, you feel the calm presence of a wind that has drifted across ages, brushing the sun's domain with cool serenity. Here, the solar wind slows and merges with interstellar space. It feels like reaching the edge of a warm room opening into night. You drift through the heliopause, sensing the gentle shift as particles from our sun give way to the quieter, older winds beyond. The boundary is soft, more like a gradual blending than a distinct edge, where two different kinds of space meet in calm equilibrium. The warm, familiar currents of the heliosphere fade into the cool, expansive stillness of the galaxy, creating a moment of peaceful transition. Light scatters differently here, diffused through dust that has wandered between stars for eons. As you float through this serene frontier, it feels as though the solar system has gently exhaled, releasing you into the vast, tranquil night beyond. Voyager probes drift into interstellar calm. Their presence feels like a tiny lantern shining in endless dusk. You picture them gliding through a quiet so deep it seems to cradle every movement, their instruments still humming softly as they leave the sun's warm influence behind. The darkness around them is vast, but not empty. It holds the faint glow of distant stars and the gentle murmur of ancient particles drifting through the void. Voyager moves slowly, steadily, like a traveler who has forgotten time, carrying with it whispers from the inner solar system. Out here, each signal it sends feels like a small, warm light reaching back toward home, a flicker of presence against the immense, tender quiet of interstellar space. You drift beside these probes, sensing their calm purpose as they continue onward, lanterns glowing in a dusk that never ends. A new set of magnetic lines greets them, soft and unfamiliar. They curve like new paths unfolding. These lines stretch across the interstellar sea in long, gentle arcs, shaped by forces far beyond the reach of our sun. As Voyager drifts deeper, the lines sway around it like strands of silk caught in a slow current, guiding charged particles in patterns that feel ancient and serene. You sense the quiet shift as the probe leaves the sun's magnetic rhythm and enters one shaped by the galaxy itself. There is no sharp boundary, only a gradual turning of invisible currents, each one revealing a new direction, a new flow. The interstellar magnetic field becomes a softly woven map, offering pathways that wind through light years of calm, inviting the probe to continue drifting along these quiet, patient lines. Tiny grains wander through the dark, ancient and slow, They drift by like forgotten stories. These grains have traveled for millions of years, moving through the galaxy with no destination, shaped only by faint winds and gentle magnetic tides. Each particle carries traces of long, quiet stars, bits of material formed in explosions that occurred before our sun was born. As they float past the Voyager probes, they glint faintly in distant starlight, appearing and disappearing, like memories rising in half sleep. Their motion is almost imperceptible, a slow wandering that seems to exist outside the flow of time. You drift with them, sensing the age and calm they embody, tiny fragments of cosmic history that continue their journey without hurry, without sound, simply drifting through the vast, dark sea. Even turbulence here is gentle, a slow turning of plasma. It feels like a distant stirring beneath still water. You watch the faint motions unfold, eddies of charged particles swirling in patterns so soft they seem like whispers of movement rather than true disturbances. Out here, far from stellar storms and planetary magnetospheres, turbulence loses its sharpness and becomes a delicate dance of currents, shifting through empty space. Each swirl drifts into the next, creating a quiet tapestry of motion that stretches for light years. The motions are slow, almost meditative, as though the universe has settled into a kind of deep, restful breathing. As you float through these subtle stirrings, you feel the tranquility of a place where even chaos has learned to move softly. Far from stars, space becomes wide and quiet. You float through this emptiness, like drifting through a dream. The darkness is deep, but gentle, wrapping around you like a soft, endless night. Here, between the Milky Way's spiral arms, the density of stars thins until they appear as scattered points of light, far apart and unhurried. The quiet becomes profound. No solar winds, no bright flares, only the faint hum of interstellar particles gliding past with infinite patience. In this stillness, distance loses meaning, and you feel suspended in a calm that reaches in every direction. Drifting through this vast, open silence, you sense the soothing presence of a universe taking its time, moving in slow cycles that echo through the dark like the most peaceful of dreams. The Milky Way's magnetic field bends softly across light years. Its lines undulate with ancient patience. You drift along these vast, invisible paths, sensing how they stretch across the galaxy in gentle curves, guiding charged particles the way tides shape the shore. The field shifts slowly, responding to the turning of the spiral arms and the drifting of interstellar clouds with movements so wide and so gradual, they feel like the motions of a sleeping giant. These magnetic lines have existed for billions of years, weaving their quiet influence through gas, dust, and stars. As you trace their contours, the immense scale becomes soothing rather than overwhelming. Everything moves, but so slowly, so gracefully, that even the galaxy's vast magnetic heartbeat feels like a lullaby spread across the night. Vast clouds of gas float motionless for ages. Their stillness feels like sleep itself. You hover at the edge of one, watching its soft, dark contours settle into the surrounding emptiness with absolute calm. Inside, particles drift so slowly they seem almost frozen, suspended in the quiet anticipation of future stars not yet ready to be born. Light barely penetrates these clouds, giving them a velvety darkness that feels warm and protective, like a heavy blanket drawn close. Their immense size makes their stillness even more profound, light years of tranquil space held in gentle suspension. As you drift through the cloud's outskirts, the silence deepens, and the softness becomes a presence as though the universe itself were taking a long, restful pause. Faint particles traverse these clouds, unnoticed and unhurried. They drift like sparks carried on invisible wind. Cosmic rays thread through the darkness with delicate persistence, their paths long and serene. Each particle glimmers faintly as it moves through the cloud, hinting at the energy it carries from distant, ancient events. Yet here, in this quiet medium, even their motion feels softened. They pass through like tiny lantern sparks, slipping through fog, illuminating nothing, disturbing nothing. Their presence brings a subtle sense of continuity, reminders that even in the deepest calm, the universe is always in gentle motion. As you float among them, the quiet glow of these passing rays feels comforting, like the softest flicker of light in a resting world. Before stars ignite, clouds rest in long, quiet anticipation. The darkness holds them gently. You sense the weight of ages pressing softly into these regions where gravity gathers gas and dust in slow, tender motions. Nothing rushes here, nothing demands to be born. Instead, the clouds wait, cool and serene, their shapes shifting only when faint currents stir their edges. Within these calm interiors, tiny seeds of future stars lie hidden, wrapped in layers of quiet that have lasted millions of years. The calm feels protective, like a cradle made of night itself. As you drift through this silent place, you sense the promise of what will come, the soft stirring of creation that has not yet begun, resting peacefully in the dreamlike stillness. As stars begin to awaken, soft winds flow outward. They move with infant calm, touching the surrounding cloud. These first breaths of a newborn star drift through the dark like warm sighs, pushing gently against the gas and dust nearby. The motions are slow, tender, barely noticeable at first, as though the star is stretching after a long, deep sleep. These early winds carve faint pathways through the cloud, creating soft, glowing hollows where light begins to gather. You float through the shifting haze, watching as the star's presence grows, quiet, patient, and full of emerging warmth. The surrounding cloud responds in graceful motion, curling and drifting under the influence of these gentle stellar breaths. In this calm interplay, the earliest moments of a star's life unfold like a peaceful awakening, soft and serene. These fields guide gas into spiraling forms. Their curves feel like lullabies written in light. You watch as the gas drifts inward, following the magnetic contours with a softness that seems almost conscious, as though the cloud itself were responding to a soothing voice. The spirals tighten over time, glowing faintly where density increases, shaping the earliest outlines of a star's life. Everything unfolds with a slowness that feels timeless, the magnetic fields weaving patterns through the cloud like gentle hands guiding fabric into place. You drift beside these forming shapes, sensing how the calm order of the field brings coherence to the drifting gas, helping it settle into the beginnings of something warm and bright. Each spiral whispers of futures not yet born, of stars that will one day light entire skies, but for now rest in the quiet, magnetic cradle of creation. Young stars release narrow streams of plasma. These flows glide through space like glowing rivers. They extend from the newborn suns in long, delicate lines, carving pathways through the surrounding cloud with gentle persistence. Though they carry energy and motion, they move with the serenity of something deeply familiar, like water finding its course down a peaceful valley. As you drift alongside one of these flows, you see how they shape the surrounding dust, clearing soft channels and illuminating the gas with a warm golden sheen. The outflows pulse slowly, matching the early rhythms of the star's heart, and their steady glow offers a sense of calm continuity. In their presence, space feels tender, alive with the gentle exhalations of a star learning to breathe. Even young suns have peaceful moments. Their surfaces rest, glowing softly. After bursts of activity, the bright plasma calms, settling into smooth fields of light that ripple with the faintest hints of motion. You sense the star's surface shifting in unhurried waves, like a restful sea beneath a soft dawn. The calm holds for long stretches, allowing light to radiate outward in warm, steady breaths. As you drift above it, the tranquility becomes soothing, a reminder that even the most energetic stars pause between their moments of brilliance. The quiet glow spreads outward, bathing the surrounding space in gentle illumination, as though the star itself were sighing deeply, returning to its natural rhythm of calm after each bright flare. Small grains collide and cling in quiet union. They build the foundations of future worlds. Their motions are slow, tender, guided by faint electrostatic touches that draw them together like soft, drifting magnets. Each meeting adds a whisper of structure, forming clusters that rotate gently as they grow. You float through this delicate swarm, watching as countless tiny grains gather into larger shapes, their collisions muffled by the vast silence of the protoplanetary disk. Over time, these gentle unions become the seeds of planets, still small, still fragile, but filled with calm potential. The grains move with comforting patience, allowing the process to unfold without haste. It feels like watching the very beginning of a lullaby, one that will eventually echo across the orbits of worlds yet to come. These winds push and shape the forming disks. Their influence is subtle, like hands smoothing clay. They flow outward from the young star in soft, persistent currents, brushing against the disk's dust with a sculptor's care. You drift above one of these forming systems, watching as the winds carve faint patterns into the disk, redistributing grains in delicate spirals. Their touch is gentle but steady, helping clear paths where planets will one day move, guiding materials into places where they can gather and grow. Even as they reshape the disk, the winds remain calm, no rush, no force, only a quiet, continuous presence. Their motions feel like an artist shaping a masterpiece in slow motion, creating balance and harmony across the nascent system. Rings of dust cast delicate shadows on newborn systems. These shadows drift slowly, like curtains in sunlight. They move as the disk turns, tracing soft patterns across the glowing cloud below, shifting with the gentle rotation of the system. You glide through one of these shadowed regions, watching the darkness ripple lightly across the gas, creating a tranquil interplay of light and dimness. The shadows themselves seem almost alive, settling gently into place before drifting on again, part of a slow cosmic ballet. They bring coolness to the spaces they touch, adding depth and softness to the warm glow of the forming star. Each passing shadow offers a moment of quiet, as though the system were taking a calm breath before continuing its eternal turning. Over millions of years, orbits settle into harmony. Each world finds its calm path. You drift through this maturing system, sensing the slow, graceful adjustments as planets ease into their long-term rhythms. Their motions become predictable and balanced, shaped by countless years of gentle gravitational conversation. Nothing rushes, nothing collides in haste. Instead, the planets glide smoothly along their orbits, creating a serene celestial choreography. Dust clears, paths widen, and the system becomes a place of stability, its early turbulence transformed into peaceful order. As you float among these settled worlds, you feel the deep calm that comes with long-awaited equilibrium, the quiet assurance of a system that has found its natural, enduring flow. Young planets greet their stars' winds with gentle resilience. Their atmospheres shimmer under soft energy. You sense the warm glow that surrounds these newborn worlds as charged particles sweep past, shaping currents high above their surfaces. The interactions are subtle, a flicker here, a ripple there, like the soft brushing of leaves in a faint breeze. Even as the stars' winds shift and change, the planets respond with steady calm, adjusting their delicate layers of air without strain. You drift close enough to see the faint glow of aurora-like colors tracing patterns along the upper atmosphere, hints of light that dance quietly without demanding attention. In this early stage of planetary life, every interaction feels tender, like the gentle shaping of something still learning its form. As time passes, a star glows slightly stronger. Its warmth spreads gently across its system. You sense the soft increase in radiance as the star matures, brightening so gradually that its worlds only feel the change as a slow, comforting deepening of light. The warmth touches each planet with a steady, reassuring presence, nurturing life where it can grow and bringing gentle illumination to distant moons. You drift through this expanding glow, feeling how evenly it moves outward, filling the system with a quiet steadiness. Nothing is sudden. Everything unfolds with patient continuity. As the star's light strengthens, it seems to hum with quiet confidence, offering a stable, enduring warmth that will last for billions of years. At last, we return to our own familiar star, calm and enduring. Its wind continues outward, steady as breath in sleep. You drift close, feeling the comforting presence of the sun, a warm, glowing center that has shaped our world with unwavering patience. Its light is gentle here, filtered through the quiet of space, spreading across the solar system in soft, golden waves. The solar wind flows outward like a serene exhale, touching every planet, every moon, every grain of dust, with the same quiet constancy. As you rest in its glow, you sense the deep stability of a star that has watched over countless cycles of life, orbit, and time. There is peace in its presence, a calm reminder that even in the vastness of the cosmos, some lights remain steady, offering warmth and guidance through the endless night.